Joining me live on the broadcast is Major Mohammed Ali Shah. Thank you for speaking to us. And at this point, it is very concerning to look at the developments that we are tracking very closely from Syria. The crash follows Assad's dramatic attempt to flee the country as rebel forces have seized the control of major cities, including Damascus as well. Syrian Arab Army, once a symbol of regime, of strength, capitulated under the weight of internal disorganization and a coordinated rebel offensive. Major Mohammed Ali Shah, your thoughts?
Right, Simran, this was bound to happen. It was only a matter of time. And this was building up. And the rebels in Syria, they had taken over half of Syria. Just the President Bashar al-Assad, he was left. And now I believe even he has fled. So when he has fled, there's nothing remaining of Syria now, of course. Now we have to understand geographically, Syria is actually a part of Syria. Golan Heights was captured by Israel, and it's a very, very beautiful area. It's got a lot of water links. Now these rebels, in fact, Syria had fought a war with Israel as well in 1967, 1973. In fact, now these rebels have yesterday they have disclosed that they are aided by Israel as well and by Americans as well. So the very fact that this was bound to happen, Syria has had a very, very autocratic form of governance over there. They had dictatorship. So when President Bashar al-Assad came, they had some hopes that it would not happen. Now, right from 2011 onwards, the rebels were very much in Syria. They were training themselves, but most certainly they have a whole lot of influence there. Also, they have power now. Syria is also bordered with Turkey. So Turkey has been eyeing a part of Syria as well. And Syria always believed in the ideology that, let's get the Arab world together. When we have the Arab world together, we will not have any of the Israel influence with us anymore. We will be able to counter Israel by getting together. Also, in April first week, there was an attack on an Israeli or a Syrian consulate where some Iranian IRGC guards were killed. That time, Iran said Israel has done it and we will take revenge against Israel. So there was no question, there was no proof, there was no declaration as to who had done the attack. Iran gave an attack on the Central Economic Zone in Israel. The missiles fell at a place where there was no damage, in fact. So it was more of a symbolic attack. Now, Syria also had said that their airspace, Syria and Saudi Arabia were two nations a couple of months back, which said that when Iran was planning to attack Israel, their airspace would not be used to attack Israel. So now in Syria, when we are seeing a heavy, I would call it as Libya Part 2, in fact. What happened in Libya? Libya, the rebels took over. And in fact, why only Libya? In fact, on 15th August 2020, in Afghanistan, when the American army left Afghanistan, the Taliban took over. And when the Taliban took over, they made use of the leftover equipment that was left by the US Army. The helicopters, the guns, and other equipment. Similarly, in Syria, when the army fled, the Syrian army left. So the rebels took over their equipment, their ammunition, their weaponry, and it was very advanced weaponry. So now when the president, in fact, overnight, people were fleeing Syria. So in Syria also, there are different militant groups, Islamic groups. Like there is Al-Qaeda, there is ISI, and so they are different groups. But now Al-Qaeda also, they did a lot of wrong in Syria. They mistreated women and very, very badly, in fact. So when these rebels came on streets a couple of days back, they were also saying that we will not cause you any harm. But we saw a lot of Syrian people, civilians, vacate and leave their homes. That was the fear. They went to a western border where the President Assad was still there, very much there. They thought it would be their last chance to be defended. but then that did not happen. So the fact is, Syria is in for trouble, and I would call it as a beginning to an end in Syria.
Mr. Shah, it is a profound struggle for the identity of the nation, as in fact the end of Assad regime is being questioned. But at the same time, in a plea for survival, now the Syrian regime has called for on Iran for the urgent military intervention and support. This request comes amid a decisive offensive by the opposition forces under the deterrence of aggression operation, which has shattered the Syrian Arab army's defenses. How do you view this? And in fact, at this given point of time, Assad has relied on foreign intervention to remain in power, and now this the tide of the battle turns up. He turns once more to his closest ally as well.
Right. Simran, the fact is, yes, they are looking up to Iran for support. And even Hezbollah, they're looking up to Hezbollah for support as well, and which is directly or indirectly in a way supporting them, most certainly the government. Now the rebels they have said, they have made a claimer yesterday that they are backed with Israel because, as they say in Hindi, dushman ka dushman do. So, now there are 8 key countries which gathered at the UN Special Envoy on the Syria, on the sideline of the Doha summit for 2 hours of discussion on Saturday night. And there are likely more countries which would follow. The UN envoy, who seeks urgent talks in Geneva to ensure an orderly political transformation on this transition. So now I will just give an example of Sardinia prison. Now, Sardinia prison is a large military prison on the outskirts of Damascus, where the Syrian government had detained thousands of prisoners over there. Now, when that happened, they released those thousands of prisoners, and they quoted these words: "We celebrate with the Syrian people the news of freeing our prisoners and releasing their chains and announcing the end of the era of injustice in Sardinia prison." Now this kind of is going to be a really there's going to be bloodbath thereafter, I think. And like what happened, the rapidly developing events, they have shaken the region. Now Lebanon said it was closing its land borders crossing the Syria, except for one that linked Beirut with Damascus. Now Jordan closed its borders crossing Syria too, in fact. So Syria is going to be heading for very, very serious trouble if things are not resolved. And I don't see things being resolved now. Things are only going to get worse because, as it is, their president has escaped to an unknown destination. We don't know where he's gone. And it's a total collapse of the government, where the rebels have taken over. So Syria, which was supposed to actually help Iran in the entire Gulf getting together and such things, now I don't see how it's going to happen now.
Of course.